Welcome to the Attic Manadad here. It's the channel where we explore what's fun in Magic, mostly on Arena, and on Mondays, we check out the meta on Arena and elsewhere, and that is what we're doing today. I have access to the untapped.gg stats, and I pay money for that, and then I share it with you. And so I hope you enjoy that, but today, this week, we've got a bit to talk about. I do have work, so it's going to be an abbreviated one. There's just too much to talk about, but you can go and you can look at in Hartford, Connecticut this weekend. There was a big tournament, a big con of SCGCon, and there was a regional championship, which we'll talk about. There was modern, there was more standard, there was legacy, there was Pioneer, there was Pauper. So could be shaking up, what the results of what happened in Hartford could be shaking up a number of formats, but we'll concentrate, because I am limited in time this week, on standard. Standard was won by Percy Yang. I believe the name of the player is Charm to Andor, playing a mono red aggro. And the thing that everybody's talking about, because we've seen mono red aggro, but because so much of the meta in the tournament was Izzet Prowess, that was sort of the narrative. And the question was, are you playing Izzet Prowess, or are you playing a deck trying to beat Izzet Prowess? And then some people said, oh, are you playing Corey Steelcutter, or a deck trying to beat Corey Steelcutter? This deck does not have Corey Steelcutter, but it does have Magebane Lizard, which is sort of the tech against Corey Steelcutter. It's a 1/4 for 2 mana, so it blocks pretty well. And then whenever a player casts a non-creature spell, it deals damage to that player equal to the number of non-creature spells they've cast this turn. Of course, if you're prowessing off, that starts to add up, and it makes for a penalty for all these players that are storming off with their spell decks, or just, removals.deck, discards.deck. This deck ended up being well positioned, though it wasn't undefeated. It was 15-3, edging out, I believe, Azori's Control, yes, at 14-2-2. Then we had Izzet Prowess did come in at number 3. So here was the argument over the meta, and I did tune into coverage a little bit of this, so I saw Jim Davis talking about. Saffron Olive says Izzet Prowess goes from 36% day 1 to 41% day 2 at the regional champ. So the deck, even though it was pretty big in the metagame, still did well. So it seemed to do well against most of the other in the metagame. And it is a deck, to the point, that people were planning for. And Saffron is saying, it's been cracking me up seeing how hard the coverage team tries to avoid saying the deck is popular and good. And then Jim Davis, I did see clap back at that. Where is it? Maybe I didn't put it here on the page, but Jim Davis, who is one of the people covering, is also a pro player, said basically, like, you have to look at not just how pervasive a deck is, but how close the win rate is. And, is it a 54% win rate versus a 51% win rate? And there was some discussion on Reddit, which Saffron Olive is chiming in on here, blaming players for being lazy because Wizards printed Monstrous Rage and Corey Steelcutter in the same format. It's quite the take, LOL. So, what do you all think? Saffron Olive says historically the best deck in standard is 15 to 20% of the meta. In a super diverse standard, it's 10% or less. To me, acting like this is the same as a deck that's 40% of the meta is disingenuous and a bad argument. So I don't know. It's definitely being considered. I'm sure Wizards is hearing these critiques. Whether or not they were happy with what the metagame was, there was a lot of really cool decks. There was a what's it called? A Throne of the Grim Captain deck that made it pretty deep. There was all kinds of Omniscience decks doing very well on day 2. Looks like they didn't quite do as well on day 1. They didn't quite do as well on day 2, although it's still in the top 25 here. So I was seeing a variety of decks. Maybe that was just the coverage, and I wasn't tuned in the whole day or anything. I just tuned in for a little bit. So anyways, The question is, how is that going to affect the meta on Arena? And Izzet Prowess is by far the most popular, although Mono Red Aggro right behind here, and then Azorius Omniscience at number 3. In terms of win rate, what again, if you don't know this, Untapped.gg calls Rakdos Aggro essentially a Mono Red Aggro deck that is using the Fling ability from Callous Sellsword, is what they call Rakdos Aggro. So there's no actual black mana in this deck. And well, in this version, somebody did put a couple Blackleaf Cliffs in. So they could theoretically cast their Callous Sellsword. But essentially it's another Mono Red Aggro. So Mono Red Aggro winning the big tournament in paper and winning on Arena. Azorius Omniscience, though, still in best of 1, putting up pretty good win rates. Now, if we flip over to best of 3, we're going to get a slightly different story. Izzet Prowess way more popular there. Mono Black mid-range, a lot more popular. Jeskai Oculus, Dimir mid-range. And the win rate, Mono Black mid-range is actually doing really well in win rate. Right up there. In fact, just edging out Mono Red Aggro as of today. If we look at the popularity, there's Izzet Prowess. There's Mono Black midrange going sort of cresting and on the downstroke. I'm not surprised a lot of people picking up Prowess. That's what everybody was playing against me this weekend whenever I turned on Arena. And Azorius Omniscience taking a win rate dive here. I'm not sure what in the meta is causing it to dive. Maybe the Mono Black midrange getting more popular, getting a better win rate is causing that. I'm not sure. Because it looks like the popularity is pretty steady, if not growing, over the course of the week. So, switching over to Pioneer. Looks like our top win rate decks neck and neck between Selesnya Angels and Mono Red Aggro. You got Mono Black midrange, Mono White Devotion also up in there. Mono Black midrange is the most popular deck in Pioneer best of 3. And best of 1, Esper Greasefang. And if you're just tuning in after a week or two, Explorer is now quote unquote officially gone. They don't have the full Pioneer card pool, but they're just calling Explorer Pioneer now officially on Arena. So that's what we're looking at. And I guess last week we didn't really have data because they hadn't updated Untapped.gg or the client necessarily. So maybe we should look a little harder at Pioneer this week. Mono Red Aggro, they're pretty steady in popularity. Drop in what they're calling Rakdos Aggro, but essentially you could add both of those and that would be way ahead. And there's Phoenix and Selesnya Angels. When I play this format, I'm seeing a lot of Phoenix. So that accords with what I have seen, just anecdotally. And then in terms of win rate, Rakdos Aggro, Mono Red Aggro, followed by Selesnya Angels, followed by Azorius Control, Jund Sacrifice now pipping out Mono Black Devotion. We've got Sultai Dredge and Izzet Phoenix, just a hair over 51% win rate. So that is Pioneer. In Alchemy, still not a lot of data this week. Izzet Otters and Boros Mobilize. It's a 2-deck format, I guess. Historic. More people with Untapped.gg installed, and you can install it for free and kind of track your data, and then it sends the data back here. And then people who pay for it get to see it. I'm not sponsored by them, so I can be honest about that. Boros Auras looks like high win rate. 4-color Samwise also pretty high win rate. Simic Eldrazi, 4-color Omni Woodland, and Boros Energy. So, I mean, if you're trying to rank up, you can see which of these decks is the fastest. I'm guessing Boros Auras is a pretty fast deck. But if you just care about ranking up quickly, it looks like Historic has a number of decks that have a pretty high win rate. Just don't expect to win a lot with mono green elves. Is, I guess, what I take away from that graph. Not a lot of data in best of 3. Timeless, nothing in best of 3. In best of 1, Mardu Energy and Boros Energy on top. In terms of popularity, 5-color Reanimator is the most popular. And that's what's happening in Timeless. In Brawl this week, Kotis remaining on top, followed by Ugin Eye of Storms, Ugin and Ureni, which I did not record a video for Ureni of the Unwritten, but I have posted a deck list on my Mox field. If you're interested in an Ureni list, I based it on one that was winning last week off that I took off of here. So there's an Inreni list available. It is the number 3 most popular, so maybe I should eventually record a video for it, even though last week was the Brawl midweek event, which is sort of the peak of On Arena Brawl. Of course, I recommend it anytime you get into 1v1 competitive Brawl and go to the Brawl Hub Discord, which you can find by looking around on my Brawl videos or going on Reddit, Brawl subreddit, and just a great community there. And they have regular tournaments and leagues, and you can really see some of these commanders tuned up. It's really fun to just look at the list, even if you're not a competitive brawler, just to get ideas for what really works. Now we can move on to the free metagame data. This is MTG Goldfish. They track MTG Online and also paper tournaments. So they've got the 10K RCQ here for standard, an MIT championship, whatever that is. Interesting. And some leagues and some 5K RCQ and the regional championship data is all in here. They put Izzet Prowess at 25.7% of the meta, Jeskai Oculus at 10.2, and Mono Red Aggro at 8.2. I'm guessing that will go up based on the performance of how it did this weekend. How many people were entered in this championship, by the way? 929 standings. Okay, so Percy Yang beat almost 1,000 people. That's a pretty good test. Azorius Omniscience now is up at number 4. Jeskai Control, Esper Self Bounce, 4 colors are Orzhov Self Bounce, Dimir mid range, Mono Black mid range. It's interesting. I think anecdotally there were a lot more Mono Black mid range decks maybe in the tournament, but maybe I'm wrong about that. We're seeing recent 5-0s is a pretty good mix of stuff. So I don't know. Where do you stand? I'm kind of like, I trust Jim Davis to understand the metagame. If he says, there are a lot of viable decks and Izzet is just the best deck among them, but lots of people are gunning for it, so it's not winning an inordinate amount and doesn't deserve a ban, I would tend to trust that. But who knows? Saffron Olive also has been involved in Magic way longer than I have, and also his opinion I think would carry a lot of weight. They're showing, let's see what they're showing. Actually, we'll do modern. They have Boros Energy at 21.6% of the metagame. Izzet Prowess also getting up there in modern. And Pioneer, they're showing Mono Red Aggro, Izzet Phoenix, and Mono Black midrange as the top 3 decks, far and away. Jund Sacrifice, Selesnya Angels down at 5% or less. And then see what Pauper is showing, because we did have, let's see if they have the Pauper challenge. Do they have the Pauper? Doesn't look like they may have the Pauper tournament that took place in Hartford factored in, but again, this is pretty healthy looking metagame. Burn, Blue Terror, Grixis Affinity, Madness Burn, Elves, Jund Wildfire, Mono Blue Fairies, Bogle, Squirrel Ramp, Mono White Aggro. There's Pauper, Legacy, Dimmer Tempo, and Oops All Spells both tied for 8% of the metagame, according to their data. And in Vintage, Lurus and Mono White Initiative, kind of in a tier above Dredge and Lurus Control and Esper Lurus Control. And Sphere Shops, interesting. Got a card from Fallout there. All right. So, oh yeah, and there was also a CEDH tournament at Hartford, and I didn't put the list on here, but that looked like it had an interesting group of things. I'm trying to remember what won, but it was not Timna Thrasios. Yeah, I think there's stuff maybe happening in CEDH right now as well. And another week when I have more time and I don't have to go pick up kids and work, we will discuss that further. But anyways, thank you for joining me here in the attic. Hope you enjoy this very brief and very uninformed metagame breakdown. Try to get it a little bit longer and a little more informed in future weeks. But I always want to bring it to you every week is my goal. I've been Manadad.